Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Episode 3 of the Fenway Faithful Podcast, presented by Guy Boston Sports. I am your host, Anastasios Kilimos. They call me the Greek Freak. Today is the day. It's finally here. Opening day for the 2023 Red Sox season is upon us. This episode will be getting to you guys right before first pitch, so I hope you guys will tune in. This is my 2023 Red Sox season preview prediction here on Guy Boston Sports YouTube channel and Guy Boston Sports website. We have been waiting forever for this moment. I've been waiting forever for this moment. If you are a diehard fan of the Red Sox, I'm sure you have been waiting for this moment. We are finally here to play meaningful baseball. This is no longer spring training. And although the World Baseball Classic was meaningful baseball, this is the baseball that, to a lot of the fans, this is what matters. This is Red Sox baseball. If you're a Red Sox fan, part of the Red Sox Nation, one of the Fenway Faithful, you've been waiting for this moment for a while, and it's finally here. So 2023 opening day is upon us. And, you know, I thought for this show, I would sort of go into my thoughts for the full season, give you kind of my outlook for what my expectations are for the Red Sox this year. Now, I have already sort of discussed the Red Sox, the outlook this year. In my first episode, I talked about, the offseason, what it means for this season. But I feel like, I kind of gave a short little summary. This one, I'm going to go more in depth on what I actually think for the season and what, the roster as currently constructed is capable of doing in the year of 2023 for the Boston Red Sox. So I'm going to start right with it. The biggest thing that scares me with this team is pitching. Pitching is my biggest concern when it comes to the Red Sox this year. I feel like it's the be-all, end-all for this team. If we're going to win a championship, if we're going to make the playoffs, let alone win a championship, make the playoffs and have success, it starts with pitching. Because I think, honestly, the Red Sox don't get enough credit. They're not as bad as I think many people believe, including myself. I thought coming into spring training, man, this team does not look good. We really lost a lot of talent. We put a lot of cheap Band-Aids on some of these things. I'm not sure how I feel about it. My confidence level coming into spring was not high regarding the Red Sox season. Now that has changed over the course of spring training, leading into the season. My confidence in this team has gone up. Now, I'll be honest. The ceiling for this team is not as high as others. I don't think this is a championship team. I'll say that right off the bat. I don't think this is a championship team. I think it could be a playoff team, but it needs a lot to go right. But the potential is there for Boston to, at the very least, be in it in October. To if not make the playoffs, at least be in the playoff race in the American League all the way until the end of the season. So I do think they're a lot better than people give them credit for. No, I don't think they're a heavy contender. I wouldn't consider them a favorite by any means. And that's not to say they're a bad team. They're not a great team, but they're not a bad team either. I think that this roster, honestly, is a lot better than it gets credit for. And that includes for me. I thought that this offense looked bad. At the start of spring training, I said, there's not a lot of firepower here. It really feels like it's a bunch of just thrown together guys. My opinion has changed. I really do think this offense has a ton of potential. I think our bullpen could be one of the best bullpens in all of baseball. Not just good for the Red Sox. I think we could have a really dominant bullpen this year. The problem is starting pitching. And it's a problem that a lot of people have been forecasting. A lot of people kind of saw it coming. It's a problem that's kind of been happening for years now with the Red Sox is they don't have, really since their championship run in 2018, we haven't had a great starting rotation. And part of that is due to losses, right? Over the years, we've lost David Price, Eduardo Rodriguez, Nathan Eovaldi. We've lost a lot of the pieces that were part of those good Red Sox teams in 2018 and in 2021. A lot of those guys are gone, and what's left is not great. And so the key to Boston being successful this year and making the playoffs and achieving all of their goals is pitching, right? If the pitching is not where it needs to be, it's going to hold this team back because no matter how good the offense is and no matter how good the bullpen is, starting pitching is wildly important and it's going to bog this team down all year. Does the starting rotation have the potential to be decent? It does. The potential is there. It's not impossible for Boston to come out and have a strong rotation. there's a lot of what ifs. Now, I said this a couple times in the first 2 episodes of the show. I feel like that's a trend across the entire team. There's a lot of what ifs, across the offense. Not really the bullpen, but mainly the offense and starting pitching. A lot of what if scenarios. There's a lot of guys who their potential is there to be studs, but will they hit that potential? What if they hit that potential? That's kind of been the talk of the offseason and the preseason for Boston is, okay, like on offense, Masataka Yoshida, his potential is really good. He could be a very important part of this team, but will he hit that potential? Again, it's all what ifs. It's all, and I guess, every team has that to some extent, but I feel like for the Red Sox in particular this year, a lot of this team is potential. A lot of this team is, well, what is this going to look like? What if this guy does this? If this guy doesn't do this? And I do think that is a little problematic because there's not a lot of guarantees on this team. You're hanging a lot of your success on hopeful stories, right? Hopeful that Alex Verdugo will find his form and that Kike Hernandez will find his form and Yoshida will have a strong rookie year and Casas will have a strong rookie year and guys like Justin Turner and Adam Duvall will kind of turn the clocks back a little bit and get to their prime stages, right? A lot of what-if scenarios. But I feel like with the offense, it's not as bad because, yes, there are a lot of what-ifs regarding guys like Yoshida and Casas and Turner and Kike and Verdugo, but I think even at their worst, they'll be decent. Like I think Verdugo, yes, would I like for him to find his all-star form again, like in 2021? Absolutely. If he doesn't, but he hits decent, okay. Yoshida, obviously I hope that he wins Rookie of the Year. I hope he has a great first year in Boston. If he falls short of that, I mean, as long as he's batting over 200, it's whatever. We'll make do. The offense, to me, I'm not as concerned because I do feel like Yoshida has shown in the World Baseball Classic he has the potential to be a star in this league. I know Verdugo can be a star. He's been a star before. Kike, Turner, all these guys, like at least I know that these guys can do it. And even if they can't reach that superstar form, that all-star form that they previously had, I'm confident that at the very least they can contribute in a moderate role to the offense. The pitching is where I'm not sure about that. The starting rotation, I'm not really confident in. And I think if you listen to anybody talking about the Red Sox right now, the biggest concern across the board for everybody is the rotation, as it should be. Corey Kluber, he's the opening day starter. I don't think he's going to be Boston's ace for the whole year. I think this is more of just, They didn't want to rush Chris Sale out there right away. They didn't want Sale to have that pressure of being the opening day starter right off the bat. So I understand them going with Kluber. And Kluber, listen, if he could come anywhere close to like his all-star form when he was in Cleveland, this is a great signing, and he could be a great help for this team. And maybe he could stay the ace. I don't think he will be. I think he'll end up falling back probably second or third in this rotation. By mid-season, I don't think he'll be the ace. I think Chris Sale, if he stays healthy, will hopefully, take that role as the Red Sox ace. I think Kluber will probably fall down a little bit. But I do think that he could have a really solid season. But again, he has injury concerns. He's pretty past his prime at this point. He really hasn't had a dominant season in a number of years. So relying on Kluber to kind of be the guy to step up is difficult to ask. But he is our opening day starter. For now, I think it works. Will it work long term for this season? I'm not sure. Chris Sale, again, it's potential, right? If Chris Sale could if he can find his all-star form, I don't know if he can be that player anymore at this point. He's so far removed. He's like 3 or 4 years removed from really being one of the dominant arms in baseball. Can he find that in him again? He's getting older, all the injuries. I don't know if he'll ever be that again. I personally don't think he'll ever be that dominant again. But then again, the Red Sox don't necessarily need him to be Cy Young candidate Chris Sale. Obviously, they'd like that. But as long as Chris Sale is decent, as long as he's like, 60% of what he used to be, he's still a good starting pitcher. and could be a really big help for this rotation. But again, with Chris Sale, it's like, okay, he's healthy right now. He's looking good right now. What's going to happen in a couple weeks or a couple months? Because again, I've said this a couple times now in my first 2 episodes. The idea of Chris Sale is great, and Red Sox fans love the idea of Chris Sale, and the team loves the idea of Chris Sale. But can Chris Sale stay healthy? Can he last a season? Because the fact of the matter is he hasn't been able to. He hasn't been able to for almost 4 years now. And it's like, at what point do we stop hanging our hats on this hope that Chris Sale will be the savior of this team, the savior of this rotation every year? I feel like it's always the same story. Well, the rotation's in trouble, but if Chris Sale comes back and he stays healthy and he finds his form, I feel like that's been the story every year since 2019, really. And it's the same thing again this year. You know, if Chris Sale finds his form, the rotation might not be bad. But can Chris Sale find his form? And more importantly, can he stay healthy enough to maintain that over the course of a 162-game season? That's the thing. And so, and James Paxton, we're talking more on the veteran side right now. You know, you got Kluber, you got Sale, and then you got Paxton. Paxton's in the same boat where it's like, you know, the guy, he hasn't really done much in Boston. You know, he's just been hurt the whole time he's been here. If he comes back, and listen, he had a strong start to spring. I was reading articles that were saying that the Red Sox as an organization were really liking what they were seeing with Paxton. They thought that he could be a really important piece. And then he gets hurt, and now, you know, we don't know when he's going to be back. They're hopeful that it's not going to be a long-term thing. But, again, he's hurt. And you know, we're hanging our hat, once again, on can James Paxton contribute? I'd like to say yes. I'm hopeful that he will, at some point this year, maintain his health and be a contributor for this team. But he has yet to prove that in a Red Sox uniform. So, again, that's the problem with this rotation. Is just there's so many things that need to go right for it to work. And even at that, even if Kluber is semi-decent and Chris Sale is semi-decent and James Paxton is semi-decent and these guys stay healthy, is that rotation good or is it average? Now, to be fair, if the offense is hitting well and the bullpen is performing, you don't need a top 10 rotation. You just need average. Average will work. Average will get you in the playoffs. But there's a lot that needs to go right for this rotation to be average. And that's my problem with the Red Sox this year. Is there's a lot that needs to happen, a lot that needs to go right for Boston for this rotation to work. Now, going beyond the veteran guys, Sale, Paxton, Kluber, and I guess you can throw Pivetta in there. Pavetta's weird because he'll have an outing and he'll come out and he'll look dominant and you're like, wow, this guy's not bad. This guy can, you know, maybe be one of the top 3 guys in our rotation. And then the next outing he comes out and you're like, oh, okay, now I realize why he's a back of the rotation kind of guy. Pivetta is what he is, and I think he is useful at times, you know, as like the 4th guy in the rotation, the 3rd or 4th guy for now, and then obviously as the season goes along, he'll probably drop down to that 4 or 5 spot. He's useful in that role because Pivetta can at times come out and look like a dominant pitcher. It's just not consistent with him. But Pivetta at least stays on the field and he's been generally healthy. So that's the important thing, is that you have a guy you can kind of rely on who will show up regularly without, you know, an overt fear of injury. The rest of this rotation's it hangs on a bunch of guys who are younger, who are unproven, we're unsure about, and a lot of them, honestly, there's a debate about should they just be in the bullpen or should they be starters. I'm of course talking about Tanner Houck, Garrett Whitlock, Josh Winkowski, Brian Bello. These guys who it's like they're all younger. We've seen flashes of, especially from Houck and Whitlock. We know that they can be great pitchers, but in what capacity? Right? I think there is, you know, I personally believe that Tanner Houck and Garrett Whitlock are better served in the bullpen. Especially Whitlock. I think Whitlock in particular, he is a great long inning reliever. I think that's what Boston should use him for. I personally would not, I don't want to see them ruined as starters, right? If they can strengthen an already strong bullpen, that's even better. And the same thing with Tanner Houck, who, again, has shown potential, has shown that he could be a great starter, but it's inconsistent, and I do feel as though he's probably better suited for the bullpen. Like, the end of spring training for Houck was bad. He got shelled in his last out in spring training. I don't know. Personally, I feel like Houck and Whitlock are better served in the bullpen. The problem is, who is then going to be your starters, right? You have Kluber and Sale and Pivetta and Paxton. The problem being that Paxton can't stay healthy. Sale and Kluber are walking injuries waiting to happen. So now, and Brian Bello, who is also hurt, Brian Bello could, by the end of the year, be the Red Sox best starter. I truly believe that. Brian Bello, by the end of this season, could be Boston's best starting pitcher. It's very possible. This guy's potential is through the roof. And I know the organization's in love with him. The fans are starting to fall for him. I think Brian Bello, by the end of this year, he's going to start in the beginning of the year, probably in the back end of the rotation. By the end of this year, Brian Bello could be Boston's best pitcher. I truly believe that. And so, he's there. Winkowski has been solid in spring training. He's earned a roster spot, a lot of it due to injuries, to be honest. Winkowski is a good sort of occasional starter, kind of like Cutter Crawford. I think Cutter Crawford and Josh Winkowski are very much the same circumstance, where it's like they're good to occasionally call up in the place of an injury. If you need a rest day, call them in to get a start. They're good for the occasional start. Cutter Crawford and Josh Winkowski to be regulars in the rotation, I'm not so certain about personally. I don't see either of those guys being everyday starters. And look, that's the real problem with Boston right now is, the everyday starters that like I said, Kluber, Sale, Paxton, Pivetta, there's a lot of health concern there. Age is a concern. And then you have your younger guys like Houck, like Whitlock, like Bello, those kind of guys. But a lot of them, like Whitlock and Houck, I think, are better served in the bullpen. So that's the issue right now with Boston is like, what do you do what do you do for your starting rotation? You gotta have somebody out there. You gotta have some starters. And I just feel like right now the starters that they have they either can't stay healthy or they're past their prime or they're concerned with certain elements of their game. Tanner Houck didn't really strengthen my resolve in spring training. He really towards the end of spring training, was bad. And so I don't know. The starting rotation, like I said, I don't have the answers. I don't have the answers. I don't think the answers are on this roster. Now, could they make a trade? Hopefully. But in terms of starting pitching, it's going to be a struggle. I think the strategy that the Red Sox organization kind of took this season with the rotation is fingers crossed and pray like hell that something works. And I feel like that's, as Red Sox fans, what we're going to have to do for this season, is just kind of cross our fingers and pray to God that something works, that one of these guys steps up and has a solid year, that one of these veterans like Kluber or Sale can stay healthy and have a return to form season. Because if not, it's going to get ugly, and it's going to get ugly fast. Like I said, this team, a lot of people want to talk about the offense not being, great, which, again, on paper, is it great? No. But is the potential for greatness there? Yes. Absolutely. I think with this offense has the potential to be great. One of the best in baseball if things go well. Even if things go well with the starting rotation, I think your best bet is your average or slightly above average. I don't think this rotation has the potential to be great unless, by the grace of God, Chris Sale and Corey Kluber find their Cy Young candidate forms from 5+ years ago. If they can find, and then all of a sudden, okay, now your rotation is great. But those days for guys like Sale and Kluber are long gone. Even if they're decent, they're not going to find that form. So, like I said, the starting rotation to me, it has been the biggest concern. It still is the biggest concern. The Red Sox season, and I cannot stress this enough, lives or dies by this rotation. It all hangs on it. If the rotation comes out as bad as a lot of people think it's going to be a tough year in Boston. Even if the offense is hitting well, it's going to make things difficult. And if the offense isn't hitting well, if they get in a slump, this rotation probably isn't going to have the potential to bail them out. So, things could get ugly here with this rotation. And Boston may have to make a change mid-season, a trade for somebody to help fix things. They should have fixed it in the offseason. They didn't. That's on the organization. That's on John Henry. That's on Chaim Bloom. There's nothing we can really do about it right now. It's just, like I said, hope and pray that something works. But as for the offense, like I said, I don't hate the offense. In this preseason before spring training started, I was very down on it. I didn't think this was a good rotation. I mean, a good lineup. I thought that, Justin Turner was a downgrade from JD Martinez. I thought Yoshida was an overpay. I thought, and to be fair, my thoughts haven't changed entirely on that. I do think Turner is a downgrade from Martinez, slightly, not by much, but slightly a downgrade. I do think Yoshida was a bit of an overpay, but I'm more sold on it now because I do think but I see, especially thanks to the World Baseball Classic, I see the potential of Yoshida. I can see where Boston was coming from in putting that big of an offer. Now, the problem was that nobody else was really offering anywhere in that ballpark, so Boston did overpay. But if Yoshida, if he maximizes his potential, if he can be effective and maybe even be a star in this league, I'm fine with the overpay. It just all depends on if Yoshida can develop. Because here's the thing: Boston has failed in recent years with guys like this. I know it's not the same, but it reminds me I have a lot of PTSD from Rusney Castillo. I have a lot of, I can't get that out of my mind, the whole Rusney Castillo debacle that happened. Boston, when they make these kind of moves for guys who are unproven, they give them these big contracts. It hasn't worked out recently. And so I am hesitant with Yoshida. I do like what I've seen so far in the offseason, in the World Baseball Classic. I'm hopeful that Yoshida could be a Rookie of the Year candidate in the American League and can be a star for this team. I'm very hopeful because I do think his potential he has all-star potential. He has the potential to be a star in this league. Let's hope that he maximizes it. As for Justin Turner, the guy's almost 40. His best years are behind him. Does that mean he can't be solid? He's still a great hitter. And I still think, he's a great clubhouse leader. So, that part of it's huge, especially when you lose guys like Devers and Martinez and Eovaldi, these guys who are sort of leaders in the clubhouse, guys who had been around for those championship teams. Losing those guys, beyond just on the field, off the field, those are massive losses because, again, they bring championship pedigree. They bring experience. They're leaders. They're looked up to. When you lose guys like that, yes, you lose their production on the field. Then you lose their bat, and you lose their fielding or their pitching or whatever. But what people don't talk about a lot is that you also lose that championship pedigree, that leadership, that camaraderie that you need in a clubhouse that brings a team together and can help fuel these title runs. Justin Turner helps replace some of that because he's a veteran. He's a proven star. He's a World Series champion. He's a great leader. I think Justin Turner, again, is he a downgrade from Martinez? I think slightly. I don't think it's a massive downgrade, but it is a downgrade, in my opinion, in terms of DH. Now, obviously, Turner, the good thing with him is that he can play, he's versatile. He can play third. He can play first. They can use him more than just a DH if needed, which is big, especially because, first base is still an unknown. Even though we have Tristan Casas, and hopefully he's the answer at first, there's no guarantee on that. And so if things go south with Casas, you do have Justin Turner to fall back on at first base. Martinez, really, at this point in his career, I know he can play outfield, but he's realistically just a DH at this point in his career. So Turner is a little more versatile in terms of defense, in terms of fielding. In terms of offense, I do think Turner is a downgrade from Martinez, but I still think he is a solid addition considering what we lost in the offseason. Bringing in someone like Justin Turner, I believe, is very important. Devers. I think he's the star of the team. The reason it's funny, you don't really see a lot of people talking about Devers is because we know what's expected of him. He got the contract. He is the guy. He is now, one of the longest tenured, if he's not the longest tenured, he's one of the longest tenured members of the Red Sox here. This is his team now. Bogarts is gone. Martinez is gone. Mookie's gone. Devers is what remains. This is his team. We know what's expected of him. So I'm not concerned. I don't think he's going to have an MVP season. And some people are talking about, could he hit 40 home runs this year? I don't think so. I think he's probably going to gun for around 30. I think 30 home runs around there is realistic for Devers. I think he's going to have to shoulder a lot of the offensive load because, listen, a lot of production's lost between Martinez and especially Bogarts. Devers has to be solid. He cannot falter. They need him now more than ever. And I think he'll deliver. I'm confident that Devers will be what Devers is, and that's a superstar. The rest of the lineup, again, it's like Verdugo. And I'll go into, at the end of the show, the opening day lineup, which has already been announced. Verdugo is intriguing because he's not even 2 years removed from being an all-star and looking like, I remember when he started to pop off, people were like, man, they got him in the trade for Betts. That trade wasn't all that bad. And then last year happens, and now all of a sudden it's like, oh, the Betts trade is historically bad. I think Verdugo, it was a down year. It was a down year for a lot of people in Boston, save for Bogarts and Devers. It was a down year for a lot of people in Boston. I think it was just kind of the trend of the team last year. My hope is that Verdugo can find that form again, be the star that I know he can be, and he's going to be batting leadoff. For opening day he'll be batting leadoff. I don't know if that's going to be a season-wide thing. I'm sure they'll make changes, but for now he is the leadoff hitter. It's a big responsibility on Verdugo. We'll see what he does if he delivers. I'm not worried about Duvall. Duvall will bring the power that this lineup needs. And then, you got some guys, Kike, Christian Arroyo. I personally feel as though by the end of the season, we won't see much of Reese McGuire anymore. He is the catcher to start the year. I don't know if that'll be the case because they do have Connor Wong, who is an intriguing prospect. A lot of people in the Red Sox organization like him. He was hurt for a lot of spring. He hit that absolute piss missile, though, towards the end of spring training. He's got some real potential, and I do feel as though McGuire could have a big regression this year, and so I could see by the end of the year Connor Wong maybe being the primary catcher, or maybe Jorge Alfaro, who was optioned to the minors. Maybe Jorge Alfaro gets another shot, and they pull him up. I don't think Reese McGuire by the end of the year will be heavily involved with the team as much as he is now as like the primary catcher. I don't think that will be the case come September, October. But this lineup, like I said, it's difficult because the more and more I look at it and the more and more I'm watching it, the more and more I'm buying into it. My confidence level on a scale of 1 to 10, can this offense be good? Not even great, just be good. It's 7. 7 out of 10, I think this offense can be good. The potential's there. Again, a lot of stuff, we need Yoshida to find, his rhythm. We need Verdugo to refine his, a lot of question marks. Not so many guarantees in this lineup as other lineups around baseball. But I like what I see. I do think this lineup does not get the credit it deserves. I understand the reason why people are not talking about it as much, because you do have, guys like rookies like Yoshida and Casas who you don't really know what you're going to get. Older guys like Turner and Duvall who, we don't know what they're going to be able to provide. I get it. There's not a lot of guarantees. There's a lot of question marks. But I do think the media and baseball media outside of Boston, even in Boston media, has not been giving this team, this lineup, the respect it deserves. I'm not saying this is a championship team. I said that off the bat. I don't think this is a championship team. But I do think this team is a playoff caliber team and can make the playoffs. Things need to go right, absolutely. The pitching needs to be better than expected, but the potential's there. I'm not going to talk about the bullpen much because I don't feel like there really is much to talk about. I feel like that is, surprisingly, because if you look in the past 6-7 years, the bullpen has oftentimes been an area of weakness. Even in like the championship team in 2018, yes, you had Kimbrel and you had Joe Kelly and whatnot, but the bullpen has sort of been a weakness in years past, and I think it is this team's strength. I think better than the offense, better than the starting rotation, better than fielding, anything. I think their bullpen is the team's greatest strength. And it could even get stronger depending on how they utilize guys like Tanner Houck and Garrett Whitlock. If they utilize them more in the bullpen, this could be top 10, maybe. I don't want to say top 5. That's a lot of pressure to put on them, but this is the potential to be one of the best bullpens in baseball. I truly believe that. That's what happens. You'll get Kenley Jansen, and they have a lot of guys like Brian Mata. They have some younger guys who they could, rely on and maybe look and see what they can do. A lot of potential with this bullpen, and I think that this bullpen is the strength of this team. John Schreiber, Mr. Fantastic from last year, he'll be back, and a guy who came out of nowhere. I like this team a lot. The bullpen, I should say. I like this bullpen unit a lot. I think it is one of the best in baseball, and it is absolutely going to be the saving grace of this team in many games this season. So, what is my outlook? What is my predictions for the season? Now that I kind of gave you, what my thoughts are on the roster going into opening day. So I'll start with going over the win total for the season. DraftKings currently has it set at 78.5 wins over under. Now, Boston won 78 games last year, so they're predicting that Boston will finish around the same as what they were a year ago. They went 78 and 84 last year. They're saying that Boston will probably hang around that mark. I am a betting man, and I will be putting this future bet in, just to let you guys know, I will be putting this bet in. I am going to be betting the over on the Red Sox season total, 78.5 wins. Now, does that mean I think they're going to win 90 games or 100 games? No, I don't think so. But this team should be able to win 80 games. Absolutely. I feel like this team, betting the under would be stupid. I see a lot of people who are taking the under. I think that's idiotic. This team, I don't know if I'd say they're a lot worse than last year. I mean, last year's team was not great at all, honestly, and they won 78 games. I think this team, the bullpen is better. I understand the rotation is not great, but the offense is still solid. I think this team can win 80 games. Does that mean they're going to win, again, like 90 or more? No, but betting the over just means you got to hit 79 wins. This team, I think, can definitely win 79 games and will win at least 79 games. So, if you want any bets to hammer, I'll give you a couple bets for opening day. I'll give you my thing here. I don't love betting opening day baseball. The reason being, there's so much unknown. You really don't know what, you have nerves. A lot more nerves are in play because it's your first game. In the case of the Red Sox, you got a lot of younger guys who this is their first time playing in Fenway. Older guys, it's their first time with the Red Sox. Like this team, this lineup has a lot of guys who have never been here before. A lot more nerves. The energy is a different level. I don't personally love betting opening day stuff because it's so unpredictable. It's so out there. It's very difficult. But I will give you some bets that I personally will be riding with on opening day. Not a ton of bets. As the season goes along, I will give you more bets that will be a component of this show. I will be giving out prop bets, some game bets, stuff like that. And obviously, if you follow me on Twitter and you go on and you subscribe to the YouTube channel as well as GuyBostonSports.com, go ahead and check out the website. I will be giving out regular baseball picks throughout the season. I'll keep tally on my record and whatnot. So if you are interested in picks and baseball picks and analysis, go check out the website, subscribe to the YouTube channel. There'll be plenty of gambling content related to baseball, along with other gambling content on the site that you can check out. But I will give you, that's my pick as a future bet. I think that 78.5 wins, hammer that over. I think Boston will absolutely win. At the very least, 79 games. I think this team will probably be in the 85 to 88 win range. Will that get them in the playoffs? I don't know. But that's where I have this team finishing, probably around 85 to 88 games. I think in terms of the playoffs, this team will be in it all the way to the end. I think this is, and it's tough. I think right now, I will say, Boston will not be a playoff team this year. And it hurts me to say that. I think they're going to win between 85 and 88 games. I think they're going to miss the playoffs by maybe like a game or two. The reason being, this starting rotation is just so bad. I personally cannot see, unless Chris Sale and Corey Kluber somehow find their MVP Cy Young style forms, I can't see this rotation delivering the way that this team needs. And I think the offense, because it's a lot of younger guys like Costas, like Yoshida, some guys who are struggling to find their swings, entering the year, I feel like the lineup could go on a sluggish streak, maybe even early in the year. That could hurt them. And here's what I'm going to say about this season. And honestly, it's funny because for most teams, the month of April doesn't matter. Right, the month of April does not matter for most teams because, it's early in the year. Even if you start off slow, even if you start off hot, it doesn't matter. There's 162 games. For Boston, April, I don't want to say it's his most important month. They need to come out the gates hot because their schedule in April might be the easiest stretch. It is the easiest stretch in the entire season. They play the Orioles, the Pirates, the Tigers. I mean, they have a very soft schedule to start the year. If they are going to make the playoffs, they have to pick up a lot of wins here. And that's, I'm going to say off the right now, I don't think this team will make the playoffs. I think Boston will miss the playoffs by a game or two. Personally, if you want my opinion, I don't want that to happen. Obviously, I'm rooting for better. But if you want my professional, and I know I'm not technically a professional, but you want my analysis on the team, I think this team will just be on the outside looking in. But if they want to make the playoffs, and it sounds stupid to say that April games are going to make or break their season, but they have to win a lot of games in April. The reason being that once you get into May, it's a gauntlet. May is going to be a gauntlet for this team, and it's not going to get easier from there. They have a lot of tough games on the schedule, but the month of April, a lot of bad teams, they're going to be playing early in the season. They have to capitalize. They have to get wins early. I hate to say it's going to make or break this team, but it's very important if this team wants to make the playoffs and have success. They got to come out the gates firing on all cylinders. They got to come out hot, and that's difficult to ask for a team that has a lot of new faces, a lot of uncertainty. To ask them to be hot out the gate is difficult, but you're going to start getting into those Yankee games, and you got the Dodgers on your schedule, and you got the Braves on the schedule, and you've got, obviously, you got your division, Tampa Bay, Toronto, good teams. You got the Rangers in the schedule, in the summer month. Like, a lot more National League games this year. It's part of the schedule change. A lot more National League games. Oh, they got some tough ones. It's not going to be easy. So Boston, and not saying this is a bad team, but the Red Sox don't necessarily have the firepower to hang right now, at least, with a lot of these bigger teams. In the month of May could be ugly. The month of May could be very ugly. They have to capitalize now in April when they have a week scheduled to start. So, again, I think they're slightly going to miss the playoffs. I think this team will probably fall in the 85 to 88 win range. Like I said, over 78.5, I'd hammer it. I don't think this team is a championship team, unfortunately. I think they are building towards something, though. I think they are building towards something. I feel as though, this team is not too far away from being a contender. I think the biggest thing is the starting pitching they have to work on. If they had one more reliable bat, I'd be a little more confident. But a lot of question marks. Teams with a lot of question marks like this can go either way. I think Boston will be better than what people are thinking, but I don't think this team, you're going to see them in late October making a run. I really don't. So that's kind of my outlook for the season. I do think that Boston, come award time, I do think the only award that they're going to see win, I don't think Devers will win MVP. I think he'll be in the running. I don't think he'll win it. I would say, honestly, I think the Rookie of the Year in the American League is going to come from Boston. Now, whether it be Yoshida or Casas, I'm not really 100% sure, but I am very confident that one of those two will win Rookie of the Year. That's a guarantee. It sounds stupid that it sounds, you're not really picking one. One of those two, Yoshida or Casas, you can put a future on both of them. One of those guys, I believe, truthfully, will win American League Rookie of the Year. I do. I think the Rookie of the Year this year will come from Boston, and it's going to be either Yoshida or Casas, whichever one, I'm not sure. I'm leaning more towards Yoshida right now, but I'm also very heavily influenced because of the World Baseball Classic and the strong showing that he had for Japan. One last thing I'll say before I give you some of the opening day props. The Trevor Story thing. That is also an interesting factor because if Trevor, and again, it all kind of comes down to what I was saying, like this team is so many ifs. If Trevor Story comes back, and if Trevor Story could find his all-star form from Colorado, this team takes a very different look because he could be the kind of, now remember when Bogarts first left, everyone kind of was like, all right, now it's time for Story to step up. That's the reason you gave him all that money. And then he gets hurt. So, unfortunate. And I feel like if they had Story from the beginning, this team would have a better outlook. I'd probably be more confident about them making the playoffs. The problem why I'm not really factoring Story too much into the equation is, number one, if he does come back, which is possible, he probably isn't coming back until July, August. He's going to miss at least half the season. And by that point, it could be too little too late. And then you got to remember, he's coming back, but he hasn't played, so he's going to have some rust on him. It's going to take time for him to get back. Last year, he didn't really play a ton because he was hurt a lot of last year too. So, the Trevor Story thing is an interesting wrinkle in the equation because, if he comes, again, it's all these ifs. If Trevor Story comes back, and if Trevor Story can hit on an all-star level, and it's difficult. I personally am not really putting my faith in the Trevor Story thing. There's a chance he may not even play this year. Truthfully, that's still a possibility that Story may not even play. I personally feel as though he will. I just don't know if it'll either be a little too late or, is he going to be able to, after missing more than half the year and dealing with this injury and missing a lot of time last year, is he going to just be able to come in and just be an all-star again and be the saving grace of this team? I personally don't think so. I'm not hanging my hat high on the Story thing, but if he does come back and he is good, it does change the entire makeup of this team, and it makes things very, very interesting. So keep an eye on the Trevor Story thing. I'll obviously talk about it throughout the season, but for right now, I'm not weighing the Story thing too much into it because, again, I'm not even sure if he will play, and if he does, what kind of player will he be? A lot of question marks surrounding that, but so far that deal is not looking great for Boston. So closing out the show, before you guys get ready to watch opening day baseball, I figured that I could possibly give you guys a couple of props that I'm looking at and a couple of bets for opening day. Again, I don't love betting opening day, opening weekend, because so many unknowns, the energy levels are different, etc. But I have a couple bets that I do. I will be betting. I hope you'll tail me on them. I hope you'll follow them. Hopefully they're winners. Number one is the under. I'm not betting a spread or a money line. I will let you guys know I never bet against the Red Sox. I should let that be known right now because I will be giving out gambling picks all year round. It's stupid. It's not what a smart or a sharp gambler would do. I never bet against the Red Sox. Never. I don't care if it's a surefire thing. I just won't bet on them. And that's my thing for opening day. The Red Sox, I'm not going to bet on them, and I'm not going to bet against them because a lot of sharp action seems to be on the Orioles. There is a lot of uncertainty with Kluber in this team right now. I do think Kyle Gibson, who's starting for the Orioles, is a better bet. I could see Baltimore stealing this one in Fenway Park. So that's why I am not going to touch Red Sox spread or Red Sox money line. However, I'm also not going to bet the opposite. So if you guys want to take that information and you want to bet against, if you're not a Red Sox fan or you're a Red Sox fan that's willing to sell their soul for a couple bucks, you can go ahead and bet Baltimore. But I think Baltimore, sharp actions on them, I could see them at the very least covering the plus 1.5 spread. But I'm not going to bet that. I would bet in the under 8.5. I do feel as though both these offenses are going to be kind of sloppy out the gate. I don't think both of the Orioles and the Red Sox offense, I don't think are in a position where they're going to be red hot out the gates. I think both of them will be kind of sluggish. I'm going to bet the under 8.5. I don't see this being a slugfest. I don't see this being a lot of runs scored. I could see this being a 4-3 win for whatever side. I don't see a team go popping off today because I do think Kluber and Gibson are good enough pitchers. Boston's bullpen will keep it low. Baltimore's bullpen could be pretty bad, but I think Kyle Gibson will be good enough to keep Boston's offense at bay. So I do think that this will be not a low scoring game necessarily, but under 8.5 I think is a good bet. So I will be riding with the under, and then I'll give you a couple of player props, just a few. Again, as the season goes along, I'll give you better picks. I'll give you more picks. Again, I don't really like to bet too much opening day. I like to sort of take in the experience, enjoy the game, and leave the betting to later in the season. But I will give you the under. I'm also going to give you Tristan Casas over half a hit, which is at minus 145 on DraftKings. I do feel like Casas will get his first career MLB hit today. So I know the odds aren't great at minus 145. Maybe you want to parlay it with the other prop I'm going to give you. But I like Tristan Casas over half a hit. I think he is going to get a hit in this game. And then the other prop I would give you is Christian Arroyo over half a hit. Again, odds are minus 240 on DraftKings. Not great odds. I wouldn't recommend betting it solo. I would maybe put it in a same-game parlay. Parlay it with Casas. Parlay it with the under if you can. Those are the only picks I'm going to give out for opening day. I will give more picks throughout the season, like I said, on GuyBostonSports.com, on the YouTube channel, so make sure you subscribe. Make sure you are following us for all of that. So, under 8.5, Tristan Casas over half a hit, Christian Arroyo over half a hit. Those are going to be my bets for opening day. Something light to start the season. You got to dip your toes in the water a little bit. Start off small, then grow bigger as we go along. Guys, thank you so much for joining me on my season preview special. Thank you for the support so far, the first 2 episodes of the show. I'm very excited because baseball season is here, which means I will be putting out a lot more content now, more blogs. So make sure to follow me on Twitter at Kilimos, AKILIMOS. Make sure to go follow us on Twitter at Guy Boston Sports. All of our social media links are up here, so you can check those out. GuysBostonSports.com. I have a ton of blogs up there. I blog pretty regularly. We have a ton of awesome bloggers there, so go check that out. Again, I'll be posting a lot more articles, picks, and whatnot in there. And then obviously subscribe to the channel, like the video. I will continue to keep posting more podcasts and maybe some shorts, some more gambling-focused shorts as we get into the season. So guys, enjoy opening day. It's baseball season. Let's go Red Sox, all right? Enjoy opening day. I will see you guys soon. Thank you very much, as always, for the support. We'll talk to you later.